This is 45 Alpha Charlie Papa Channel, and today we've got a treat for you today, the M1 Garand. This is a competition grade M1 Garand. Didn't always start off that way, but we'll let the old gunsmith here kind of take over and let us know what this rifle is and how we acquired it. This was originally acquired from the old Director of Civilian Marksmanship, now known as the CMP, or Civilian Marksmanship Program. And you too can own a M1. They have some relatively simple rules that you have to provide them with information, and you too can buy one from the CMP. This particular one was made towards the end of the M1 production. It was a Korean War design, but it's been transformed into a matched service rifle for service rifle competition. Before we really get into it, let's discuss the fact that the Garand family pronounces the name Garand. I mean no disrespect to them, but if I talk about the M1 Garand, we're going to get letters and comments saying that that's not the right pronunciation. If we call it the Grand, we'll get a fewer number of letters telling us it's the improper pronunciation. So since most people know it and call it the M1 Garand, that's what we'll go with. It is a gas-operated semi-automatic rifle, air-cooled rifle. There's a pair of holes, gas ports, under the barrel that activate the operating rod, which you can see under here, and push the operating rod back. It's direct gas impingement. That pushes the bolt back and open to lock it after the last shot, or if there's another round in there, it will feed. The rifle was called by General Patton the greatest infantry battle implement ever devised. And back in '45, when he said that, it was probably true. And some would argue it's still true today. It is a magnificent engineering feat. It is a wonderful rifle to shoot, and it can be accurized to compete in match competition along with pretty much everything else out there. We can take this this rifle to the bench here, and we'll see how what he did to it to make it as accurate as it is. And I can feel already this thing weighs quite a bit. There's a lot of weight into this rifle. How much does this weigh? Actually, I haven't had a scale in years. I don't remember. I'd say somewhere around 15 pounds. Yeah.
Really absorbs a lot of the recoil.
Yeah, about twice the weight of the original. Yeah. And you'll also notice that this does not have a walnut stock. The walnut stocks were used on the very early ones, and later on, as walnut supplies got short, they went into different types of wood. This one, I believe, is a beech stock, or I think a beech stock. Anyway, they are harder than walnut, and they are less susceptible to shrinking and swelling with the temperature and the humidity. So much as we all love walnut and blue steel, this particular one is in a beech stock just to stabilize it and keep it from moving around too much when you're in competition.
Yeah, well, let's go to the shop and take this apart and take a look at the insides.
Okay. All right, we're back in the shop with the M1 Garand, and we're going to first have to take it apart before we can talk about how it's accurized. First step is to make sure that it's unloaded. There's no round in the chamber, nor in the magazine, and you want to pull the bolt back far enough so the hammer is cocked. Pull the trigger guard pulled back and down, and then it comes straight out. That's your entire trigger group, your hammer, and trigger, sear, floor plate. All come out as one unit. We'll set that aside. We really don't do anything to that. If you're trying to adjust the trigger pull, if you'll notice, right here is where you have the sear and you have the hammer. And there's two ears on that. Both of those have to be exactly the same against the sear in order to affect the trigger pull. You see there's two ears on that will catch the back of the hammer. So when you pull the trigger, that's how the hammer is released, by the sear right here clearing and allowing the hammer to drop. You have 2 faces on the hammer, 2 faces on the sear. That's really great for a service rifle, because if one breaks, the other one is still going to operate. As far as lightening the trigger pull and making it a smoother trigger pull, you have to have them both exactly the same, or it's only riding on one. Alright, once we have the trigger group removed, the barrel group comes loose from the stock, and this one is particularly tightly fit. I have a standard stock as you would get from the civilian marksmanship program, were you to buy one, and they fit quite loose. Generally, you can simply take them out of the stock. This one, being match conditioned, is extremely tight. Now
why is that? Why would you make it so tight?
you don't want any movement of the barreled action or in the stock. You want it to be basically as solid as it can be made. Any looseness from the time you pull the trigger till the time the rifle discharges and the bullet goes down the barrel, any little movement disrupts your sight picture. So you want to unitize this as much as possible. I spent a lot of years shooting at Camp Perry and talking to the armorers in the military vans, the Marine armorers, the Navy armorers. The Navy was actually the last ones to use this. They used the M1. And this is set up pretty much as a naval rifle would have been set up at the day, back in the day. Your operating rod, of course, is what drives the bolt. And the operating rod is to be removed. To remove the operating rod, we start with the spring and push it forward and unhook it. The spring comes out of the operating rod. That allows you to push this pin out and remove the follower and the parts. Then the operating rod itself, bring it back, oops, follower, and there's a key right here. You'll notice where this cut is, where the operating rod will come out, and then you can remove the bolt, pushing it forward and up. Now we have it down to basic components. Normally you would take your back hand guard and your top hand guard off. These will not come off. Part of the match conditioning that the Navy did was to actually bed these with this is with steel bed compound from Brownells. They are both absolutely rigid on there. What I've done is, rather than have a handguard that rattles and a fore-end handguard that rattles, we've made this one piece. We've made the whole barrel assembly one piece, to where the harmonics of the barrel when it's fired are always the same. So that is a permanent attachment. It's not going to come off. When I received the rifle from DCM, it was chambered in 3006 Springfield, as they all were. This one was converted to 308, and there were a couple of reasons I did that. First of all, the barrel I got had been stuck in the mud at some point by some GI and was bulged right near the muzzle and wouldn't shoot very well. The gun operated, but it wasn't accurate at all. So we had to do something about that. That meant a barrel replacement. With the M1 Garand, it's very simple to convert it to 308. All you have to do is screw on a 308 barrel, headspace it, and go. It's a very simple conversion. It's just a barrel change. Normally on match grade Garands, match conditioned Garands, you don't want to ever touch this forward handguard, because they have put it on there and it's so it won't rattle. And if you grab the gun and pick it up by that handguard, you have just destroyed the guy's accuracy job, because the weight of the rifle will allow that to move, and you will have a very unhappy competitive shooter on your hands. So as I said, this one was match conditioned the way the Navy did theirs, and this is all totally solid, one solid piece, made that way with, again, steel bed compound from Brownells. The stock, when you get your M1 Garand from the DCM, the top of your stock is going to look like this. And the problem is that this particular stock is oil soaked, and from having a rifle in it, the pressure of the trigger assembly being locked into it pulls the upper assembly down and compresses the wood, and so the entire thing gets loose. To keep that from happening, there are several areas where we want to bed the rifle, and it's easier to see in this example what has been done. Let me see if I can get these even and hold them there. This, of course, is still wood. We have gone in this area and we have cut a trench to fill with bedding compound. Most of the books will show you to cut a trench in here and here, and so you can put bedding compound in there. What that does is it takes the pressure of the two parts being clamped together, or two assemblies being clamped together, and it spreads it out so it doesn't compress the wood. You may or may not be able to see that there's also a difference here. What I've done to make this to make this rifle heavier is I've mixed number 8 shot with Acroglass steel bed and poured it in here to add weight to the rifle. The reason for adding weight to the rifle is it helps stabilize the rifle and it helps mitigate the recoil. It sucks up the recoil. Now, so you're going to have to do those things. You're going to have to relieve wood here. Maybe I can do this with a Marks on Anything pencil. You're going to relieve the wood here. That little horseshoe area. You're going to cut a trench here across this entire length and across here and here to add bedding compound. On the bottom, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to try and show this to you. You're going to dig a trench through here using woodworking tools and through here. So now what you have is you have a large area, top and bottom, that when it's cured will keep from compressing the wood. Now I'll show you a little trick that I learned over a lot of years. If you notice, the receiver on the M1 has got two legs that when the parts are clamped together, form the bottom of the magazine box. Okay? So now I've got this area here has been hollowed out and lined with steel bed. This area here has been hollowed out and lined with steel bed to try and spread the weight out or the pressure out so we don't compress the stock. I have gone ahead and gone a bit further and actually measured this leg and this leg and cut a trench through the stock here and here. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yep, right there.
Okay, and done that on both sides. I took the wood out from there, and I also put steel bed in there. What I've done now is basically poured two pillars of bedding compound that attach to both the top and the bottom areas of bedding, so that not only do I have a wider area to take that pressure, I have pillars between those two areas of something other than wood that won't compress. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. So we've gone ahead and relieved this horseshoe shape back here, this, and actually poured pillars between the two. You have to make sure that, of course, that the unit will still slide in, and when you go to put it back together and let it set, of course you want to use plenty of release compound so that the steel bed doesn't attach itself to any of the steel parts. Then you won't be able to get it apart. And then you need a couple of little things. Since I can't take this piece off, it's epoxied on. I'll show you on this stock that we're going to we'll have filled those areas with steel bed. We're going to take two tools. These are bedding fixtures. One goes in here so that when you put your stock on, you put your barreled action on your stock, it's going to hold it in the proper position. Again, I can't take this piece off, so I can't really show you that, but you will put it together with that Y piece sitting in the channel here to hold the barrel in an exact position. And when you put your bottom assembly back on, and you can of course take this bottom assembly, you can take this bottom assembly apart and not have all these parts in here when you're actually doing the work. Okay, now again with the hammer cocked, you're going to put this piece between your safety and your trigger guard. The reason is to hold that for the 24 hours it's going to take the epoxy to dry and set. What that does is it leaves enough room when the epoxy sets to make this trigger guard, as it closes, clamp very hard against these two, bring them together, because now of course you've got four pillars of steel bed as well as large areas of the stock that are all bedding compound rather than wood. So you can put a lot of pressure on it. It holds everything tight. Nothing rattles. Nothing moves. And it lets the gun shoot very, very accurately. So once again, the important thing you're trying to achieve is almost like a steel washer here and two steel bars here, two steel bars down here, and they're connected by four steel posts that are poured and absolutely formed right up next to the steel parts so they don't come apart. And they don't rattle, they don't move. That's probably the most important part of match conditioning an M1.
Did you just put the weight in the front of that stock, or did you add some to the back?
No, there is, in the back of the stock, you will see there are two holes for a cleaning kit that the military used in World War II and Korea when this was the main battle rifle. Those are also filled with a mixture of bedding compound and as many lead number 8 shot as I could possibly put into it. We can pull this off and show you. Well, you can see here that there's no holes there. They're absolutely filled with bedding compound and lead shot. Now you could put lead bars in there if you wanted to measure it and pour lead bars to fit them, and then just epoxy those in. It's a lot easier just to put epoxy and steel shot together, mix it up, and pour it in there. It's much faster. So the butt stock is weighted and the forestock is weighted, so that when you're standing at Camp Perry in a wind, you've got a lot more resistance to the wind moving the gun around. All right, now we've talked about the necessity of these two fixtures. Those are available from Brownells. Their stock number is 080-727-001-WB, like Warner Brothers. Yeah, what's up, Doc? Now, we have made the connection between the buttstock and the receiver absolutely a glove-tight fit. We've made these absolutely tight to where they don't rattle or move. The last thing to do to finish this is to take this gas cylinder up front and make it rigid also. To do that, we first of all take out the gas plug. Let's move this down here where there's a little better light. Take the gas plug out, and then we unscrew this. And that barrel comes threaded. Any aftermarket barrel is going to be threaded. And then we remove this by sliding it forward. I'm somewhat reluctant to do that, but I will, if I can, without having to go get the sledgehammer. And it's not going to come forward, so that's fine. We'll just see it. The idea is you do two things. One, if you look right here, you can see that the bayonet lug back has been tapered so it does not touch the wood or the metal washer here. You don't want any movement in this disturbing the handguard. You also, I've also taken in these splines here have been peened. There's 3 of them, and they've been peened. There's the 3rd one on the top, so that this had to be forced on with a hammer. That's why it doesn't want to come off now. You go about 3/4 of the way, and then you take this and push it on the rest of the way, and the idea is that this should come up tight. And I noticed that this one, from all the shooting it's had over the years, is a little loose. That's kind of a no-no. You would like to tighten up right here. That would be moving this forward again, and I should probably try a little harder to get that to move forward. Not sure we've affected it at all. But once again, what you're trying to do here is you're trying to make sure that nothing rattles, that everything is tight. Yes, I did move it. You can see that now it doesn't screw up tight. I can now take this. That's moving it back against those splines. That we have peened. And that's not quite there. Yes, it is. It's going to maybe just fit. So that when we put this back together, we know we have absolute contact between the two. There we go. Didn't want to start because we didn't have it absolutely in line. Now, this is tight, this is tight, nothing is going to rattle. Everything is just as tight as we can make it to have a one-piece unit that has no individual moving parts. You even make sure that you tighten down your stacking swivel so that it doesn't move on recoil. You want everything just absolutely unitized. Then it's just a matter of reassembly of the unit, of the firearm, and putting it back in the stock, and you have a match-conditioned M1 Garand. Alright, now to reassemble the M1, first thing we'll do is put the bolt in. Now I haven't shown you how to take the bolt apart. There's a tool for it, but this is the firing pin right here that extends down. That's going to keep you from getting it in there easily unless you realize that it matches up with a notch right here in the bridge. So if we come in from the top and line the firing pin up with the notch in the bridge, it will go right through and into the gun. Then we can take our operating rod. This is why gunsmiths are never clean. Should have cleaned that operating rod. And we want to put the lug on the bolt into a recess here. And the operating rod will only go in right here where there's a notch for it. So we need to get the two of them compatible. So the operating rod goes in the notch and will operate the bolt. It'll be a smooth, simple operation. Now we can go turn this over, and you will notice that there's a hole in these parts, and each of these parts and a pin to go through them. There's the pin, there's the parts. Now we can simply make sure that we line those holes up with the hole through the receiver and put these parts in just like John C. Garand designed. And this will be your follower and your follower actuator rod, and that once again has got a hole in it that lines up with the others. When all those holes line up, the pin just slips right in like that and puts them all in position. Last thing is to put the spring back in. Take this, put it on the two studs, and the gun should be, the upper is assembled. It will lock open, it will slam closed just like it does when you're operating it. That's how the gun goes back together. Now to put it back in the stock, you'll notice there's a small furrow on the front of the stock here. You want to make sure you take that and put that around the operating rod and into position before you put the stock back, or the action back in the stock. Now there are ears right here on the trigger guard that fit into cutouts here to make this, to allow this to fit in just like that. Bring it up, close it. Keep your thumb out of the way so you don't hurt yourself. And your M1 Garand is back assembled and ready to go to the range. I will point out that there is such a thing as a national match sight. This has got a national match sight on it. It has a hood on the sight rather than just the large hole that was on there in the battle sight. Otherwise it's exactly the same. The one difference it makes, it gives you a half-minute adjustment, because each click on the elevation is 1 minute of angle at 100 yards. So you're going up 1 inch at 100 yards, 2 inches at 100 yards, 3 inches at 100 yards. As you shoot the match course and you go back to 200 yards, you have to know that you need to go up, most rifles, about 4 clicks, about 4 inches. Alright, that gets you on target at 200 yards. Go back to 300 yards, you go up another 4 clicks or so. And of course you're going to adjust for windage and for the elevation you're shooting at, and the 4 may not be right. You may need 3 and you may need 6. Who knows? Your eyes and reflection of your shooting glasses may be different than mine. But you have got something on this that does not exist on the battle rifle sight, and that is you can turn this 180 degrees and it will adjust a half minute of elevation. Now, a half minute of elevation is a half inch at 100 yards. Most of us can't hold that close. But when we get out to 600 yards, that's a 3-inch adjustment rather than a 6-inch adjustment. And that does make a difference. So you'll notice there is a little notch right here on this sight, and when it's up, you've raised it a half inch. When it's down, you're in the normal position. So you can adjust the sight in half-inch increments, or a half minute of angle increments, which is not really an inch, but it's close enough for government work. So that's the national match site and the reason for it on the M1 Garand. This is the old gunsmith. Hope you've enjoyed our assembly and disassembly and showing you how to match condition your Garand. And now let's run out to the range and see how this old girl will shoot. I'm going to have an old man take an old rifle using old ammunition that he loaded back in, about 88 or 89 when he was still shooting at Camp Perry, and we're going to see whether we can hit any targets with it. M1 is notorious for what's called M1 thumb. It's when the action slams forward and your thumb is caught between the bolt face and the receiver, and it is extremely painful. The way the Army would teach you to shoot the M1 is to put your hand against the operating rod here as you put your rounds in, and then you can let it go and give it a shove, and it'll chamber the round without you having your thumb in the way and getting it slammed. So to avoid M1 thumb, put your hand on the action rod, put the round in, and get it your hand and everything out of the way. All right, let's shoot the M1 a little bit and see if we can get a group out of this. I threw the first shot off to the right. Getting used to the trigger, I guess. 4 of the 5 shots aren't too bad. Let's see if we can't put a couple more in there and let them hear the ping. Should have 3 left in there. There you go. That's not bad. What I should do is put 2 more in there, just to have a 10-round group. I threw the first one out left. I forgot it was a double-stage trigger, and I jerked instead of, after I squeezed and it didn't go off, I jerked it until it did. So for a lefty, since I'm left-handed, you can put your thumb on the back of the receiver and your forefinger on the op rod as you force the clip in, and then just let it ride forward. So I'm going to shoot 2 more in here so we have a 10-shot group to look at. Not like those wimpy writers who do 3-shot groups and 5-shot groups. We're going to do the whole 10. Okay, that should be 10 shots downrange. What you do now to unload the M1 without shooting all of the ammo through it, when you've got a partial, is you'll eject the round that was in the chamber and press mag release. And it goes up in the air and makes funny noises and spreads your ammo all over the range. Let's go take a look at that target. We're going to shoot a 5-shot group now, just to see if we can hold 5 together into a smaller group. I had 4 and that last one went in the same hole. And that's what this gun is capable of. It's just my old eyes that aren't quite as capable as the rifle. not the steadiest bench in the world. Hate using picnic tables instead of steady rifle benches, but gotta use what you got, I guess. Oh, that's a bunch better. Two-stage trigger, so you're going to come up on a easy pull, and then it's going to meet some resistance. And as you'll pull through that resistance, it's a military trigger, and it takes some getting used to. One, 7, and 8 were out of the group. Everything else is all together.
Not bad.
1 is high in the white, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then you came down into the black, and then 7 was the one to the right, and 8 was the one up on top in the white next to the first shot. So 1 and 8 are the two up at the top. 7 is the one off to the right. 1 I wasn't surprised because, as I said, that trigger takes some getting used to if you're not used to a military trigger. There you go. That should be about 2 inches. That should put you near the center. Oh, otherwise these groups would form right next to each other. Boy, that's a beauty right in the middle of the X-ring. That touching the first one, they're both X's. Three of them, that's perfect. That one was a little high, but you're in the 8 ring, middle of the black. You're in the 8 ring again, 9 o'clock to the X ring. That one went way high. It's touching the black at 12 o'clock. Alright, you're in the 9 ring at 1 o'clock. That is a shooting machine, that is. Nice shooting. You did quite well on that one. Your first 3 shots were X's, right down the pipe.
Overall, a great day at the range and a great day with the old gunsmith. I'd like to thank the old gunsmith for his experience and knowledge. This rifle was shooting really nice for us. We were shooting pretty decent groups, considering we were shooting off a picnic table, and the case necks on the 8-year-old ammo was splitting. The groups could get tighter with this rifle. This rifle will outshoot me and the old gunsmith. This is 45 Alpha Charlie Papa channel, and I'm out.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.